Oh man, there was one time I couldn't stand marine fragrances. In fact, it was almost vomit inducing. Very nauseous experience with a lot of marine fragrances, but now I'm really enjoying them. See how my palette opens up. Enjoying floral fragrances at one time I hated. Now I'm really liking marine fragrances. Some I still am very cautious about, but a lot I really enjoy, especially salty marine fragrances. And today I've got a top 16 salty marine fragrances video for you today. If you want to find out what they are, then please stay tuned. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian. Yes, today we're talking about salty marine fragrances. Are you a fan? Do you enjoy this genre of fragrances? As I was saying, yes, at one time I couldn't stand the marine fragrances, especially if they were overdosed with cologne, really strong and nauseous, kind of fishy smelling fragrances. But I feel like a lot of these fragrances don't even mention cologne, so they're using other notes to create the marine or sea notes effect here. And these are really wonderful fragrances. And today, as I said, I've got 16 fragrances in a ranked list, and we're going to go ahead and get started. Before I do, though, let me know if you're a fan of marine fragrances. Let me know if you had the same experience I did with marine fragrances. Did you think they smelled very fishy or sulfuric? Put a comment down so I can find out. If you didn't have any problems with this note, let me know as well, because I know some people don't, but you know, certain people are sensitive to certain things and they get turned off by certain notes and ingredients and they can't stand it. And this was definitely one of my most challenging styles of fragrances. But at number 16, going to the house of Creed, it's MILLESIME Imperial, this one right here. Did you catch my video from last week talking about how Kering purchased Creed for over $1 billion? Kering is a fashion conglomerate. They own brands like YSL and Gucci, and they are kind of amping up their beauty, side of business. And their very first purchase is Creed. But this fragrance was featured in that video, and it's a salty, marine, fruity fragrance in that it has, I think, melon type notes for the fruits, and I believe it's like cantaloupes. Not my favorite fruits to eat, and that's why this is kind of ranked low because of that. But it's fruits with sea salt, marine notes, musk, lemons, bergamot, iris. There's woods here as well, and mandarin. So it's very citrusy, very fruity with the melon touches, and of course lots of salt and marine notes as well. I think this has a lot of fans. People do seem to like it, but I don't think it's all that. You know, it's not like a, oh my god, what an amazing fragrance that is. It's pleasant, and it's definitely deserving of the number 16 spot here. And the next one, we're going to the house of AMOUROUD. It's Wet Stone, this one right here. So Wet Stone is a kind of minerally salty marine fragrance in that it has a wet stone accord. Imagine walking along the coast and you see all these stones that are kind of getting washed up with the sea, the waves and everything. And then there's the foams. We've got a fragrance focusing on sea foam coming up as well. And so this minerally stone accord that they've created here definitely has that kind of a smell. So it's the wet stone accord with sea salt. There's ambergris here. There's lemons. There's bergamot, ginger, and clary sage. So in the end, you've got aromatics, you've got spices, and those are kind of coming in to contribute some different touches here with this mostly, marine fragrance with lots of salt. And then there's a bit of an animalic touch from ambergris, but it's contrasted with the fruits. I'm sorry, the citruses. There's a lot of citruses here. So in the end, it's a pleasant fragrance to wear. Not one of my all-time favorites from this house. Wet Stone from AMOUROUD. Let me know if you're a fan of that one and what you think about it. But moving on to the house of CARNER, Barcelona, and we're tackling a fragrance created with cucumbers. And so cucumbers is very ozonic. The inside, the pulp of that cucumber creates a very ozonic touch, sometimes going into a marine direction, especially when you combine it with sea salt. This has an overdose of cucumbers and sea salt. It is a bit like salad. It's called SALADO, but that doesn't mean salad. But there's also here Petitgrain, very green and bitter, earthy, with bergamot, orange blossom, musk, woodsy notes, and pink pepper. So some spice, some floral touches, very citrusy, very salty, and ozonic and cucumbery with the cucumber note. It's a pleasant fragrance to wear. Salado, ranked a bit low because that's how I'm feeling today with this list. But the next fragrance focuses on that sea foam I was mentioning, and it is called Sea Foam from the house of Art de Parfum. This is it right here. Sea foam is that foam that washes up along the coast where the waves are kind of like coming in and then leaving the sea foam behind. I really like to photograph those when I'm walking along the coast. And for me, this fragrance captures Northern California perfectly because it has a lot of aromatic tree smells, you know, meshed with the fragrance. So in addition to all the marine notes in the sea salt, you've got eucalyptus here, you've got fig leaves, you've got bay leaves, along with seaweed, sandalwood, lemons, driftwood, bergamot. But of course, sea notes, sea salt, and seaweed as well creates the marine styling. And it's totally kind of a cool temperature California coastal smell of the sea contrasted with the kind of green aromatic lightly camphoric touches of the eucalyptus tree. We've got a lot of eucalyptus trees here, and when I walk along the coast I can smell the eucalyptus trees because they're very fragrant, and then there's that sea breeze hitting my nose as well, so this captures that perfectly. So Sea Foam from the house of Art de Parfum at number 13. Next we're going into a rosy salty direction, and it becomes a marine fragrance, going to the house of Maison Crivelli. It's Rose Saltifolia, this one right here. Are you guys familiar with this one? It's an overdose of salt with roses, and the roses are a bit jammy, but not overly, kind of a fresh rose here. So in addition to the rose Centifolia, it's called Saltifolia, but it's rose Centifolia. We've got seaweed here, cashmeran, blood orange, pink peppercorn, and salty accord. It's definitely very, very marine and salty, and also a bit, you know, seaweedy. You definitely get the light animalic tinge of that seaweed note, but lots of rose here. It's a nice balance of the rose, and it's also very, very musky and citrusy. It's very fresh to wear, and this is a fragrance you can wear in the summertime, overdose yourself with it, the sprays, and then also very, very bright and happy for wintertime as well. So Rose Saltifolia from the house of Maison Crivelli is at number 12. Next up, going to the house of HEELEY, we're going into a citrusy direction with salty marine touches. It's Note de Yuzu from the house of HEELEY or James HEELEY. This is a collab with Maison Kitsune, as you can see on the label there. But in the end, this was a bit challenging for me as well. I didn't embrace it as much as I embraced the oranges and lemons ring the bells of St. Clement's, the other fragrance that's citrusy from this house. But I have now come full circle because I'm enjoying marine fragrances, and I like a little marine touch, salty touch with citruses here. It's yuzu with lemons, there's mandarin orange, so it's a citrusy overdose, and then there's sea salt, vetiver, white musk. And I feel like the sea salt, yuzu, is already a note that has a bit of saltiness, so maybe the sea salt, the fact that it's a sea salt, it's contributing to creating a marine effect here with this fragrance. But either way, it's fairly fresh, really pleasant to wear. Note de Yuzu from the house of HEELEY. It's a very underrated house. Sadly, nobody's selling it here. It used to be sold at Barney's, and that's where I bought that from. I don't find it here, but you know, when you go to France, he has his own store there in Paris, and then I believe they are sold at Javoy as well. I bought a few fragrances from that house from Javoy. But moving on to the house of BDK, it's Celle d'Argent. Argent, this one right here. I believe it means silver salt. Is that what it means? Let me know. So this is a salty floral fragrance in that it becomes marine as well. It has salt, orange blossom, ambroxan, cashmeran, white musk, timbersilk, grapefruit, bergamot, and galbanum. So there's some green touches here. There's definitely citruses, lots of citruses. And not only do you have the fruits, you've got the flowers as well, but there's an overdose of salt here. And then the muskiness with the ambroxan and cashmeran. Definitely there's a marine touch, but it's not as strong in that it's more salty, but definitely it has an underlying marine effect there that creates that marine vibe. So if you like the idea of citruses, musk, and also salt together, definitely check that out. And then moving on to the house of Tiziana Terenzi, it's Foco Nero, this one right here. This is a kind of a crowd pleaser in that it's very aromatic, and it's lots of salt in here as well. And then once again, just like BDK's Celle d'Argent, it's got more of an underlying marine thing happening in that there's a lot of other things that are more prominent here, but the salt creates this marine layer here. But it's sea salt, lime, ozonic notes, juniper berries, lavender, lemons, bergamot, thyme, oak moss, cedar, sandalwood. Really wonderful fragrance. If you like salty fragrances, definitely try Foco Nero. It definitely has the marine vibe for sure. Then moving on to a very salty, very marine, inky fragrance going to the house of Zoologist Perfumes at number 8. It's Squid, this one right here. This to me, I thought I was going to be not really enjoying. And this is surprisingly, when I first smelled it, I enjoyed it, and I was surprising myself because this to me screams like it's very fishy because it's squid, takes the inspiration from under the water, but I quite like it here. It's ambergris with salt, incense, black ink, pink pepper, apopanax, and benzoin. So there's definitely a resinous, balsamic, ambery touch way under there, but it's an overdose of salt with ambergris. So there's the idea of a bit fishiness here. I think it's the black ink or the ink note that's in here and the incense to kind of tones down any kind of fishiness we're getting, and it's just, you know, highlighting the salt and the ambergris. And the ambergris might go into the animalic direction a little bit, but it doesn't quite for me. And that's why I feel like it's a really pleasant fragrance to wear. Either way, Squid from the house of Zoologist Perfumes is at number 8. And this next one, inexpensive, under $100, very fun to wear, very fresh, perfect summer fragrance from a house called Parfums Berdu or Maison Berdu. This is Azur Riviera, this one right here. What a wonderful fragrance. It's kind of simplistic. You can totally overspray this stuff. It's very fresh and very salty marine at the same time. And there's some citrusy touches and floral touches as well. So it's sea notes, algae, orange blossom, and jasmine. Very pleasant, really beautiful. It's a really nice balance of flowers, citruses, and then the whole marine saltiness. Really fun fragrance. Berdu, it's Azur Riviera, pleasantly titled with the name because you definitely have that experience there. Then we're going to the house of Beach Giza. This is Ocean Water, this one right here. If I can get that focused. Ocean Water to me is so unique. It's a very unique marine salty fragrance. Really wonderful. I really am surprised how much I like this one. And it was definitely one of my favorites from this house along with Cocoa Moon. And the two together, Cocoa Moon and Ocean Water, really smell really wonderful together. But Ocean Water has sea salt with ambergris. There's driftwood, bergamot, cucumber, and musk. They've added cucumber here to amplify this kind of ozonic freshness with the fragrance. Lots of sea salt, ambergris, can be a bit fishy. It's definitely the regurgitation of the whale. And then driftwood, you know, driftwood is along the coast. And so it's an overdose of like marine touches here, but it's a beautiful balance and very, very, very unique smell. There's a bit of earthy soil kind of tincture kind of smell in there as well. But I can see that you're smelling the earth where the water is covering the, you know, the earth, but you've got all the marine touches and everything as well. Very unique fragrance, really pleasant to, pleasure to wear here. It's Ocean Water from Beach Giza. And as I was saying, that layers really well with Beach Giza's Cocoa Moon. I think the two together smell fantastic. If you haven't tried it, definitely do try it. So that is at number 6. So up next, going to the house of Cartusia. This is Amare, this one right here. So this one I discovered last year. It was an instant love, and I couldn't believe how great this is. This is not necessarily uber marine in that it's more salty, but there's an underlying marine thing happening once again. And then you've got an overdose of aromatics and citruses with musk and patchouli. There's a bit of gaiac wood here that creates a bit of a creaminess, but it's loads of aromatics with loads of mint and rosemary here and lots of citruses as well. Bergamot is to the max here. And then of course the salt and the marine touches. Very, very beautiful. It's a perfect summer fragrance. And this bottle is truly gorgeous, as you can see. So that is Cartusia's Amare. Moving on to the house of Veronique Gabay. This is Cap d'Antibes. I recently was at ZGO Perfumery and I smelled this and I had to get it. And I have 3 other fragrances or 4 fragrances from this house. This one, I didn't even know how good it was, but it has pine tree note. And I like the idea of pine tree because the Mediterranean has a lot of pine tree along the coast. And you've got the idea of pine tree along with the sea notes. And that's exactly what this is. So it's pine tree note, marine notes, resins, bergamot, floral notes, and cedar. Very woody, but the marine notes are overdosed with some saltiness there. There's definitely a marine salty vibe with this one. And then contrast it with the pine notes because I love the smell of pine tree myself. And the resin's kind of like the sap off the pine. So everything is kind of like blended beautifully together to create this very coastal, you know, marine pine kind of a fragrance. Really delicious. So it's Cap d'Antibes from the house of Veronique Gabay. Great fragrance. Then it's a wood sage and sea salt from the house of Joe Malone. Again, there's an underlying marine touch here, but it's mostly from the sea salt note along with the ambrette seed, so it's very, very musky. And then there's also the Clary sage, which is very, very aromatic. And this, once again, feels like Northern California to me. I just love the smell of the coast along Northern California, especially driving down from San Francisco all the way down to Monterey and further down. The coast smells amazing, and this totally smells like it. So this wood sage and sea salt from the house of Joe Malone. A great fragrance. Only bad thing about that fragrance is it's kind of light, so you need to overspray. But the next fragrance, go into the house of Lumari. It's Port Hole, this one right here. What a surprise fragrance this is. Absolutely love it. It's a salty overdose of saltiness and overdose of fruitiness. Two together really, you know, kind of like cross each other out to create for this salty, fruity kind of a combo. So it's pineapple with salt, bergamot, ginger, passion fruit, white flowers, caramel, white musk, and woods. Super delicious, wears beautifully, really has a great sexy trail as well. And I love the fragrance in the heat. I first started wearing it last summer during the hot of June when I was in Europe, and I absolutely love the way it smells because it leaves a really great trail. It's kind of a crowd pleaser. People react very positively to it, and they ask you kind of what you're wearing. I guess pineapple is featured here. It's not anything like Aventus, so if you like the idea of Aventus, this is not that, but there's pineapple, a major dosage of it, but it is definitely very salty and then also musky. So it's Port Hole from Lumari at number 2. Great surprise, a salty marine fragrance. And then last but not least at number 1, it's Vanilla Vibes. This one right here from the house of Juliet Has a Gun. So this is instant love for me for this fragrance. It's not necessarily your typical marine salty fragrance, but it's got that vanilla. It's kind of suntan lotiony, a very beachy, but then there's a whole marine thing happening here with the saltiness. So it's vanilla, sea salt, musk, benzoin, sandalwood, tonka beans, orchid. I don't know what you get with the fragrance from an orchid, but they're adding kind of a light floral, hardly scented kind of a floral thing in here. But lots of warm notes against the salt and the beachy marine thing that's happening. Super delicious. Vanilla Vibes is great. Probably one of the best from this house. This is Juliet Has a Gun and Vanilla Vibes. Anyway, that's the list. That's top 16 salty marine fragrances. What are your thoughts on these, and do you enjoy salty marine fragrances? Do you have any other suggestions for salty marine fragrances? I'd like to find out. Always looking into them. Always like to, check them out. Like this was a very recent discovery. This is Cap d'Antibes, and I'm surprised. I like the combination of the salty marine touches with the pine, and it really reminds me of where I grew up, because even living here with the trees we have, so instant buy. So if there's anything new that you guys have, do let me know. Put a comment down so I can find out and check into any of the salty marine fragrances. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching today. If you have any questions or comments, please list below. Please like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye. So we do have a couple of bonus options for you. I left these as bonuses. They're a bit challenging. The first one is Kerosine's Walk the Sea. It's very salty with an overdose of animalic ambergris here. Overdose. It's got a smoky touch as well. Sometimes ambergris can create the smokiness, and this one has it. But there's flowers under there. There's musk and cedar as well. So when you're wearing it, it's a bit challenging, but I kind of like it once in a while. It's not something that I'm interested in wearing day in and day out, but once in a while, I like the way this smells. And the salt, the ambergris, and the white flowers together with the musk and cedar is a beautiful combo. And the next one for me is very challenging. This one definitely does go fishy on me still. I've still tested. This is Profumum Roma's Acqua di Sale. According to Profumum Roma, this is their most popular. So I've got the limited edition red bottle here. I've got videos on the channel shot at the stores that their flagship store in Rome. So if you're curious to check out and find out more about the fragrances. But this one, to me, it's an overdose of seaweed with salt, and then there's myrtle and cedar. For me, it smells better when it's not summer, when I'm wearing it in the cold of winter. For me, it creates a bit of a earthy patchouli kind of saltiness, but in the summertime, it goes really, really fishy. But I know this one has a lot of fans. But either way, check it out. This is Profumum Roma's Acqua di Sale in the limited edition red bottle. And I believe they do a limited edition bottle of that every year. But either way, guys, that's all I have for you today. And stay tuned for another video tomorrow. Bye-bye.